I'm joined by Simon Marr, aka Puggles, aka one of my good mates of all time, aka one of the first HSMers out there, and um, yeah, most importantly, just a real good friend over through my life. Simon, thanks for taking the time to have a chat with us.
Chris, aka CK, aka Rainsy, aka Bulldog. It is my absolute pleasure.
So, tell me, Simo, how did you get the name Puggles?
Oh, well, let's start with Puggles. That was given to me years ago. I'm going to say over a decade ago. And we're actually going to the Caloundra races back on the Sunshine Coast all these years ago. And it was a pre-drinking session with a bunch of friends. And I don't know if you remember those. There was a beer. I think it was a 4X. You could take the top off, and there was a question and answer
Yeah,
trivia
yeah,
sort of scenario.
yeah.
And one of the guys popped one, and he sort of looked at it, and he goes, "What is the name of a baby echidna?" And everyone goes, "What? I don't know that." And he goes, "It's a puggle." And then he looks at me. He goes, "You're Puggles." And it was and it was as innocent as that. And throughout the day, some things happened that were quite funny. Alcohol induced things that had happened. I got curry spilt on my white shirt,
Yeah.
and it was they called it like Puggles behavior, and it stuck with me. And I kind of did run with it for a bit, and it ended up becoming my alter ego, my alcohol induced alter ego, Puggles.
And because you then, when you went on to Hello Sunday Morning blog and like the early days, that was the name that you used as a handle, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, tell us about before we get into that, like what was what was the identity? Like how would how would it change the way you interact with people as a name? Because I feel like I had my name was Nugget, and that was the thing that kind of came out, and a lot of people have this identity that is reinforced by a culture. What was it like? What were the good things? What were the bad things?
Yeah. So the name Puggles allowed me to be a character and it was something that I'd given myself permission to do because it caught on quite quickly because a few of the guys that I was with had mentioned it, and then they really ran with it, and then it just became like Puggles behavior no matter where we were, what we were doing. And especially during drinking time, that Puggles character, it gave it life.
Mm.
And whether that was good or bad, it was the persona that I took on. Um, when I think about it now, I quickly took it on and I used it as a way to entertain people. And I think it was also probably a source of validation for me as well, being able to be out there and be the center of attention, which I did enjoy, but the alcohol definitely helped personify that.
Mm.
And I quickly realized later on, and I even realized now because I was thinking about this, it was also allowed me to be sort of the joker, but for a lot of people, probably a source of entertainment, but also the butt of their jokes as well.
Mm.
And I'd played into that a lot. And don't get me wrong, it was a lot of fun. Like we had a lot of fun going to festivals and, like I said, the races, or even just catching up at someone's house or going out. But it wasn't really a sustainable thing. It was going back to, I don't know, you might think about your sort of your early adolescence, going into your teens, where you could sort of almost get away with anything. And that for me was, whether it be, I suppose, dancing, whether it be joking around, doing something silly, or sort of pushing the boundaries, the social boundaries. That was what that was for me.
Mm.
And I think overall it was harmless, but it was a detriment to, I suppose, my true authentic self.
Mm.
Yeah, I still like to have fun, but I think it was probably a distorted version of that, like a distorted Joker.
Mm.
So overall, it was harmless fun, but it was just this persona that gave me the opportunity to sort of almost do what I want.
Mm. Is it like almost like a kind of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing? Like it, and because I always remember, like, you know, we lived together through university, and I remember, you know, you'd have these twin characters of this person, like you'd be out there drinking and it'd be like this really hyped up, and you were the center of attention. You're always like up for a dare, up for doing whatever, you know, and then afterwards you have this like real sensitive, like, oh, what did I do? You know, like there's this real twin thing. Um, when you know, when you originally did Hello Sunday Morning, or originally chose to take a break from drinking, did you find it hard to integrate that part of your life? Like, did you find it, you know, could you be Puggles without the alcohol? Was it just something that sort of was under lock and key when you were drinking?
So I took on the Hello Sunday Morning challenge probably after I suppose it was within the first couple of years that you started it. And I took on that challenge, and I recall going back to that. It was the first time I'd gone without drinking for an extended period of time since I'd begun drinking. And I remember standing around, you know, this is something you've heard so many times, I'm sure, not even knowing what to do with my hands. You know, all of the typical things I know that, yeah, all the typical things that you don't know what to do. And I'm sure all of your participants have blogged about these things. But on top of that, there was my friends not understanding it, which is that social part and that understanding piece, and the culture that's woven into the fabric of, you know, Australian culture, and here in the UK, that culture as well. But people looking at me, waiting for me to do that thing, or to kick off that moment, to be that Joker, to do something a little bit edgy, wherever that was. And being able to do that, or to do something that was life-giving to everyone around, that didn't take from anyone, and to do that sober is a whole different thing. And to be authentic to yourself. And it was challenging. It was really challenging. And people sort of shoving drinks in your face and thinking, oh, he's a joker, he's going to give this up soon. Sticking to that challenge, that was a difficult thing. But it helps. It's almost like it helps you when you're in that environment to start to think about actually what matters to you, as opposed to those validation moments.
Have you found, you know, with those original friends that perhaps found your choice difficult, how have those relationships evolved over time? Like, are there examples of like a person had a perspective on it originally and then they changed their perspective, or even someone that's maintained a, you know, a kind of perspective around it? What have you noticed in your friendship?
Yeah, I think it's just like any friendship, where you have friends for reasons or seasons, as they say. But I think the ones that stick around are the ones that matter most. And I think a lot of people in their lives have their friends that they partied with, or their social or uni friends that they may stay in contact with, but aren't really close to them. But I think what the difference was with me, there was probably a couple of friends that I guess, yeah, saw me as a bit of a joking piece, probably as someone that they could almost, I'm going to push around and sort of go, oh, here comes Puggles, watch this, watch me rile him up, or watch him do this, I'm going to get him to do this. And, you know, they're the kind of people I guess I didn't need around anymore. But, you know, a lot of friends, I think, the good friends stick. And also they're the friends that, and as time goes on, you get older, you stop doing that as much of that anyway, because you learn and grow, and they'll grow with you, and the good friends stick, I guess.
What's it like? Likewise, buddy. What's it like I mean, you've played a lot of rugby in your life, and it's been a real important part of, your identity and culture and friendship groups. And drinking cultures are usually pretty extensive in rugby clubs. What was it like for you, both drinking and not drinking, and what have been your reflections since hanging up the boots?
I had trouble actually understanding. It's like this dual world that we talked about, where I'm a guy that's interested in growth, I'm a guy that's interested in developing and all that kind of thing. And then that's definitely applicable to the rugby pitch. And it's like an institution of guys and girls that have this team environment that can be so special because within a team and that team culture, and that applies outside of rugby, you can get so much out of it. I grew up on the Sunshine Coast playing a lot of rugby, and I've got a lot of friends from that. It was very much a lad culture, drinking culture, but also when it was game time, we got really serious about how we came together and achieved things. And then I moved to the UK to play some rugby in 2014, and I guess I thought that Australia had a pretty full-on lad and drinking culture. But actually going up to Nottingham in the Midlands, I'd realised that it was just as intense, and maybe that was even the source of where it originally come from. And I guess during that time, I'd realised that I'd changed a bit as well, and I think I was in my early 30s. Yeah, I was in my early 30s or late 20s, and hanging out with these guys in their sort of mid 20s who were definitely, it reminded me of myself 5 years earlier or 10 years earlier, which isn't that much. But for me, I felt like I'd come to the UK to sort of learn and grow. And I found myself in this real lad culture. And it was a huge drinking culture. And it was kind of the same scenario as that Puggles thing. Still lots of great people and great guys that I met and had some really good times. But I quickly realized that was a big basis of it as well. And it's a bonding thing and it's a lot of fun, but often it requires a lot of drinking and a lot of partying as well. And I enjoyed that, but when it's excessive, it can be really difficult to maintain, and it didn't really feel as right anymore to do that all the time. Even if it was training on a Tuesday or Thursday night, they'd go out for 2, 3, 4 pints, and that continues on, and it can get a bit difficult.
And you said to learn and grow a lot, like over this interview. What does that mean to you? Like, what does it mean to learn and grow? And it sounds like almost in kind of opposition of an unhealthy relationship with alcohol. You sort of have conceptualized that this is that your life that you really want is one that's based on learning and growth. What does that term mean for you?
Yeah, it's something I've always done. We all do it, I think, whether it's conscious or unconscious. I think, especially even when we lived together, I moved in with you. You were someone that was really, I think, consciously looking to continue to learn, continue to grow in terms of what you were developing as well with HSM in the early stages. And for me, I like to get the best bits of everything and pull it together and make sense for myself. And I think often growth can get a bit of a bad rap sometimes because it can have that feeling of I don't know, maybe being a little bit maybe cringy or culty in some ways. But for me, it's continuing to educate myself. It's continuing to be a bit more conscious about how my decisions and actions affect people in the world. And I suppose how I can assist others in maybe doing that a little bit better or being that bit more conscious about who they are and what they want to contribute to the world as well.
And so this is kind of impulses led you to create the Feel Good Blueprint? Tell us a bit about that. Like, where'd that come from? You know, how long have you been thinking about doing that? Where do you want to take it?
Yeah, so the Feel Good Blueprint has been something that's been sitting in my mind for probably 10 years. And a lot of the time, I just don't take action on things. It's easy to let time pass by and not really take action on something you're really passionate about. I think you're obviously a really good example of someone that grabbed something and really ran with it. And this for me is, I suppose, nothing different in that it's a community of like-minded people that that want to contribute to the growth of others, whether that be across health, wealth, wisdom, art and culture. And it's really just for people to learn and grow themselves. You might think of it as a sort of masterclass where I'm talking to people that I think can bring real value to others. And I think that's a responsibility too of mine. Once I know enough, and if I have the ability to bring that to other people, I think I've got a responsibility to help others as well. So the Feel Good Blueprint is really just that community of an online community of people that want to aim for being great and feeling good about it, because often personal growth can be seen as something that is a painful thing. And I think it's important to realize that there are difficulties, and life inherently is difficult. But I think that we need to enjoy the process and have a good laugh and have some fun while doing it. So that's the embodiment of the Feel Good Blueprint. And I've just started to kick it off with some podcasts and speaking to some really interesting guests. I'm excited to upload some more that I've been speaking to, and it's been really good.
What does it feel like? It's something, that you've wanted to do for 10 years. What does it feel like to see it come into, reality?
Yeah, it's really rewarding. I think I didn't realize how much work it would be. It's a lot of work, but if something's worth it, it's worth putting in the work. But it feels great to get the feedback that I'm getting. And even just if it's one person that says, oh, I got this from that episode, or, I really resonated with what that person said. That's almost like, I've ticked off that goal. I've been able to help one person. And it really is as simple as that. And it feels really good to be able to be out there putting out not only putting out something that has been stuck in my head and taking action on it, but also being able to engage with people. And it gives you this opportunity to engage with people you may not have done before. Just like, I suppose, what HSM is, you can build a community of people that you can engage with and you can speak to about something that's really exciting and you're excited about, and they are too. And there's something really special about that.
It's really great, man. And so tell us, lastly, what does your relationship with alcohol look like now? What does it look like now?
So I've done, I think, 2 actual sort of formal HSMs, and then I've done my own 2 informal ones since I've been in the UK. I finished one at the start of the year, so from the 5th of January for 3 months, I went without drinking, and then lockdown happened, and I gave myself permission to have some drinks. And actually, it's really easy to slide back into it, given the situation at the moment. I think we discussed this on my podcast. Given the situation, to ease back into it, and just to be able to go to the fridge and get a drink just at the end of the evening is super easy to do. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but it goes back to what do I want? Do I want to get up a little bit earlier and contribute more to the Feel Good Blueprint? Is that possible after a couple of Fosters? Not always.
I think I feel good.
Yeah, I think I think I'd be lying if I said I didn't love a drink. It's a daily decision. I realize that I've got a relationship with alcohol that is going to be a prickly path always. It's something that has been big in the family, and it's something that I've had a few drinks in my time. Managing that is super important. People talk about balance and moderation. It's possible for some people, but for me, often it's really cut and dry. It's an all or nothing thing, and I need to really still look at that. All these years on, I can see the woods for the trees, but at the same time, at night I could pick up a couple of drinks, and then, I could, at the weekend, I could have a few more.
Mm.
And as the weeks pass by, another 3 months is gone, and maybe I haven't achieved the things I want to do. So it really comes down to what's most important. And for me, I think the Feel Good Blueprint is super important. So it's up to me to reason with myself and to reckon with myself about how I manage that. How's my relationship changed with it? I've become a lot more mature about how I face alcohol and how I look at it. But I think it'll always be there in the background as a challenge for me. And I just need to be able to manage that and be real with myself about it.
Mm. Very true, man. Simo, thanks for joining us all the way from the UK. And I look forward to being on each other's podcast forever.
Yes. Yeah, let's just keep it going. I'll be having you back anyway. I always love speaking with you. Much appreciated.
Cheers, man.